Okay, so tonight we will continue on what is truly the central topic for Buddhism, the topic of self. And of course, there is a lot of misunderstanding as to the Buddhist presentation on self, that even among different Buddhist traditions, there are somewhat disagreement as to what is the self. Does it exist? Does it not exist? If it exists, how is that it exists? If it doesn't exist, how is it that we're on the path in the first place? Okay, so I hope that since this is a confusing topic, so in trying to not make it confusing, I may end up making it even more confusing. So there is that possibility also. So my intention is not to confuse you, even though I may end up confusing you. So bear with me, okay? So let's do a quick meditation so we can be ready for this. Let yourself know that you're going to meditate. Remember the meaning of meditation. It is the means of accessing and abiding in ever subtle levels of consciousness. So you are accessing and abiding in ever subtle levels of consciousness. Why? The more subtle the consciousness, the more powerful means we have at our disposal for meaningful transformation, and also more powerful means, or the more refined tool we have to be able to understand and to see. So with that in mind, take a nice deep breath. I'll assume that you're already in your posture. And as you release the breath, let yourself go, let your body go, let your mind go, let your breath go, keep letting go. Notice as you're letting go, notice that you are touching ever deeper sense of calm, ever deeper sense of pleasantness in the body, in the breath, in the mind. Allow that to take place as you continue to let go, let go, let go. And at the end of that breath, stay where you've reached, leaving the breath alone. Let the breath return to its own rhythm without being controlled, but stay, keep your consciousness where it reached and keep it diving in that direction, going towards ever deeper sense of calm, going towards ever more pleasant space, going towards ever clearer space, ever brighter space, without forcing it, but just allowing that momentum to continue. And when you palpably notice the sense of calm in the body, in the breath, and the mind, rejoice. Allow. When you palpably notice a pleasantness beginning to arise that is palpably present in the body, palpably present in the breath, palpably present in some degree in the mind, rejoice, welcome them. At first, there will be an indirect experience of clarity where the very space nature of mind allows for different experiences to simply appear on their own without us consciously conjuring them. Visions, sounds, tactile sensations, whatever it may be for you, just acknowledge it, that that's because of clarity, and relax. And how clear, how strong, how now-ness are these experiences. Allow yourself to experience them, knowing that that's because of the natural luminosity of mind. And let go, and let go. Staying within this ever deepening calm, ever deepening pleasantness, ever strengthening clarity, radiance. Gently bring your attention to the space in front of you at the level of your eyebrows. And as you acknowledge and notice the sensation in the forehead, rejoice. Ascribe to it as a sign of your natural ability to collect your attention, to bring your attention somewhere and keep it there and hold it there. Because that's what you just did. You collected your attention to that sensation and you're holding it because you're aware of the sensation through time. And don't worry about other things coming into the field of your awareness. Don't push them away and don't grasp onto anything. While your attention is there and you're feeling that sensation, whatever it may be for you, ascribe to that sensation as being caused by the presence of your, what may be called your future awakened self, your future fully embodied authentic self. Notice the natural respect you have for that and let that sense of respect flow from you. And as you feel that deep sense of respect, let yourself go deeper into the calm, let yourself go deeper into the pleasantness, let yourself go deeper into the clarity, into the radiance, into the collected attention. And towards that presence, again, allow yourself to feel the natural trust you have in it. That there is no doubt whatsoever, whatever comes from its direction is absolutely for your benefit. And you completely trust that. So let that natural sense of trust come from you and direct it towards that presence. And as you feel that deep sense of trust, let yourself go deeper into the calm, deeper into the pleasantness, deeper into the clarity, deeper into the radiance, deeper into the focus. And bring to mind those moments, those events in your life when you felt aligned, you felt content, you felt a sense of conviction in something beyond what you can sense with your senses, but you had this conviction in its existence, in its possibility. And those wonderful events that may have happened in your life, and you know it's because of alignment with this presence. So feel a great sense of gratitude for the guidance that you've received, for the guidance that you are now even receiving, and for the guidance that you will continue to receive in the future. And let that sense of gratitude take you deeper into the calm, deeper into the pleasantness, deeper into the natural clarity and radiance, deeper into the unforced focus. Whenever there is awareness, there is a quality that always accompanies every awareness. Whether you are aware of something that is pleasant, whether you are aware of something that is unpleasant, whether the mind at that moment you are aware that it is afflicted with some sort of affliction, or whether you're experiencing great joy, where there is a deep understanding, whatever it may be, in any of these cases of awareness, there is a quality, a general quality about awareness. Let your attention go to that all pervasive quality of awareness. Just the pure clarity of it, the pure spaciousness of it, the pure allowing nature of it, that it allows for appearances to appear, whatever the appearance. Just go to that nature of allowingness, spaciousness, and how vivid these experiences are. Like when you are afflicted, you are indeed afflicted without any doubt. When you're enjoying yourself, you are indeed enjoying yourself without any doubt. That's this vividness of experience. Let your mind go to just that quality of awareness and the sense of I know-ness. Let your mind just go to that and try to stay there. Of course, you will go, you will lose it, you will go, you will lose it, but just keep going back. No matter what draws you out of that, go back. Take attention back to that space of just pure knowingness, pure spaciousness, pure radiantness, pure vividness. And whenever you notice you're not able to maintain attention in just that pure awareness space, relax. Don't make it something that you're forcing to happen. Just relax. If it's not happening, just keep relaxing. Holding that intention to bring attention to that general sort of characteristic of awareness, and then keep relaxing. And then for the last minute of this meditation, whenever a thought comes up, a sensation arises, an idea comes up, an experience comes up, it is not necessarily a distraction, but an opportunity to be aware of that general quality of awareness that is aware of it. So as soon as you have an awareness of something happening, step back into just the spaciousness that allows for this awareness to take place. Okay, get ready to come out of the meditation. Let everything go. Just go to this awareness of I'm meditating, noticing, bringing attention to the signs in the body, in the breath, in the mind, rejoicing, witnessing them, and invite that bright presence to come into your heart and to help you with this session, to understand, to embody. Being ready, take a nice deep breath and release. And as you release, let yourself now reconnect with your immediate surroundings, deliberately being aware of the different sensations coming towards you, towards your sense of touch, sense of hearing, sense of sight, deliberately noticing colors, shapes, shadows, lights. Okay, all right. By the way, this was a very crude meditation on what can lead to a meditation that is found within some schools as you may have heard that Rigpa. I'm not sure some of you if you heard that term Rigpa, but it is basically an all-pervasive quality of consciousness, of awareness that is ever present. Then if you can somehow bring attention to it, somehow it will help you find a liberating path. Okay. So what did it mean by a liberating path? By liberating path, what is meant by that term is being aware of something that by merely being aware of it, it frees you from inauthentic being. It frees you from the conditions of limitations. It frees us, to put it in a very Buddhist way, it frees us from suffering and the causes of suffering. Okay, that's what they mean by liberating path. So it's the mind encountering, or consciousness or attention encountering something, and there's something about that thing that, because of the encounter, it creates this liberating. Okay, right. We're talking about self because, and the reason I'm talking about it is because I've often encountered people who have been who've been students of the Buddha Dharma for quite some time, and they say outright there is no self, and they're not saying it in a way from a like looking at from a certain perspective. The self doesn't exist. They're not saying it from that perspective. They're saying it, there's no self whatsoever. And that leads to a sense of, when you reach supposedly the end of suffering, the end of existing in a way where we all know, where we existing in a way where we are constantly acting from a place of misunderstanding. Okay, so putting an end to that for them means you just go out of existence. And who goes out of existence if you never exist in the first place? They don't have an explanation for that. But supposedly it's like an end of existence or something. So exactly what's existing, what's undergoing the path, what goes into nirvana, they don't quite have an explanation for it, but they believe that they're holding correct understanding by saying there's no self anyway. Oh, there's no self anyway, so why are you worrying about? Okay, self doesn't exist. But from a certain perspective, they're saying that because there is a perspective that a teacher guides a student to, where they end up from that perspective saying, ah, there is no self. But exactly what are they looking at when they say there is no self? And that is the perspective that we have to understand when that is being said. There's the end of the invitation for tonight mentioned the one, the many. And always understand whatever is being said from a particular perspective. From our perspective, there is one. From another perspective, there are many. From one but the underlying reality of this one and this many is something that you could say is beyond them. Now, in trying to conceptualize something beyond one, something beyond many, you may not be able to do that because its very nature is beyond any kind of conceptualization. But there's a part of us that can sort of have a sense of understanding it. It's like we for a moment touch non-conceptuality, even if it's less than half a moment. And that sort of gives us a sense of confidence in it. But unfortunately, since we leave that immediately, what the conceptual mind comes in trying to understand it and try to conceptualize it. And that's where we have to be careful that when conceptual mind is wrapping itself around something, it is always not the thing itself. It is considering anymore. It is considering an image of it, and then looking at the image as if it is the actual thing. Like right now, I'm looking at you, but what I'm actually looking at, I'm looking at images of you. I'm looking at lights arranged in certain ways that represents you. Now, if I mistake this representation to be you, then this representation will not behave like you because it's not you. That's what conceptual mind does to a certain degree. Whatever it engages with, it is a mere image of the thing, not the thing itself. Only non-conceptual awareness engages things directly. Okay? Right. All that, believe it or not, is to help. If I'm confusing, sorry about that. At this, in trying to not make you confusing, I may end up making you more confusing. Okay, so let's make it simple by going to the very beginning. Why did this guy who had an experience come and talk to a bunch of people for? Why was he talking to them? He was helping them address something that was going on in their lives. What is it that is going on in their lives? There are certain experiences that I have that I want to continue to have, but for some reason they don't continue. There are experiences that I'm having in my life. I wish I didn't have any connection with them whatsoever, but they still remain there. Okay, without labeling them good or bad, but that's in a general sense, that's what's going on. So help me understand this. Help me understand this reality. Okay, that's what we are trying to understand. We are not trying to point to whether the self exists, whether there is a self, what is the self, but rather I'm having this experience. This is what's going on. Okay? So stay with that throughout. It's like the first and second noble truths. The first and second noble truth don't just disappear because the third truth is there. The third truth is about the first and second. The fourth is about the third, the fourth, the third, the second, and the first. Okay, they don't just disappear when another one comes up. The very fact about your life, what's happening in your life, the things that you want to continue, the things that you wish weren't there, the very fact that we are such, we exist as such, that we are having these experiences, that we are capable of having these experiences, there says a lot. Okay. Now, when we are having these experiences, there are unconscious conclusions we are making about these experiences. And that's what we are trying to, that's what these teachings are trying to point to. They're trying to point to these unconscious convictions we are drawing about these experiences. Are these convictions in alignment with the experience itself? Or are these convictions ideas that we are superimposing on these experiences? Okay? It's not whether or not you are having these experiences, but rather the conclusions that we are making about these experiences. That's what we are supposed to really look into. Okay. Now, in terms of the self, there is a sense that there is a person, there is an entity, there's an identity having these experiences. It is, we don't experience it as there is sadness, let me look at it, but rather we experience it as I am sad. I am that sadness. We experience it as I am that happiness. And at the same time that we are having these experiences and we're having these, we are making these identifications to these experiences, there is something about the experience that is also informing us, telling us something else at the same time. If sadness is what I am, why do I not want it? And what me is not wanting the me that is sad? If I am happiness when I'm happy, why is there a part of me that is afraid of losing that? If that's what I am, I'm going to be happy forever. I've always been happy. I will always be happy. Why should there be a part of me afraid that there's going to be a time when I'm not happy? Okay. And throw in a little bit more confusion. So there is this two layers so far. There's an experience and identifying with the experience. This is me. I am sad. I am happy. I am angry. I am this. I am that. And there is, at the same time, something saying something else about the experience itself. Like if it's sad, I don't want to be sad. But if sadness is what I am, how can I not want it? It's like fire not wanting to be hot. If it's no longer hot, it's no longer fire. If that's what it is, then that hotness is part of it. Okay? Now that's the second layer. Something in the experience sort of denying the identity. And there's a third experience, almost like an umbrella kind of thing. That's sort of almost like a overview perspective. Yesterday I was sad. The other day I was happy. The day before that I was blah. And then it seems to be there's an I moving through those experiences. There's I am moving through that. There's a me or some substance me moving through those experiences. That's what it seems like. But that is only because of conceptualization. That is only because of language that we end up having to describe the experience that way. And because we are describing the experience that way, we feel, no, we get caught up. We are completely forgetting that we are simply conceptualizing an experience. And for the sake of language, we have to say certain things. We have to put it in a certain way. And because we get caught up and we think just like looking at the image and confusing the image for the actual thing. All these senses that we are having, the sense of I am that at the moment that it is happening. At the same time, wait a minute, I don't want that. Wait a minute, I could not want that if I'm not that, if I'm that. Oh, but I was that yesterday. I must be moving through. All these are experiences, kind of a sense of things, a kind of a trying to make sense of things happening. Okay, that's what it is. We cannot really point to any specific thing other than just the experience. We cannot really point to, oh, there's the thing having the experience. We can't really do that, but we think there's a thing having the experience. Now, from the perspective of, is there a thing having the experience? What does that mean? We have to pause there for a moment before we even go even further. What does it even mean to ask that question? Is there a thing having the experience? What do we mean by a thing having an experience? What do we mean by that? We have to understand that before we even try to even answer that question. Do we understand all the components and do we also understand the implications of the components of that question? Okay. So in trying to understand the experience, don't forget, how are we doing that? We are using conceptual language, conceptualization. So it's going to continue to be conceptual. So when we ask the question, is there a thing having the experience? What do we mean by that? Okay. So the question can be asked another way. Other than the experience, is there something else? That's another way of asking that same question. But because you ask it this way, the mind is not going to immediately try to think of what that thing is supposed to be that's having that experience. And that thing is what you could call a phenomena, or you can, this is what we are referring to as a self. Now, the word self is already loaded, so we have to throw that aside for the moment, okay? Before we substitute the word self in here, we have to do something else. So we say, okay, oh, that's what the self is. That's what the self is the image of. The word self is an image for this, okay? Yes, the sense of, put it this way, a me. I don't know what it is, but there is a sense of a me-ness. I have no idea what it is. Is it one? Is it many? Is it complicated? Is it simple? But Whatever it is, there is a sense of a meanness. Okay? When we just stay at that sense, it's a sense of a me. And we leave it as that. This is called the general sense of I. Okay? A general sense of I. Now, when we take this general sense of I and we are looking at it, and we are actually what are we actually seeing when we, let me rephrase that. We're not looking at it. We are trying to look at it. We are trying to look at it, but in trying to look at it, what exactly are we actually experiencing? What are we actually experiencing? Sadness, for example, right? At that moment. That moment is a specific. That moment is a specific. And what we end up doing, and the wonder samsara is a crazy land, we end up flipping these two things as though they are one and the same, and we're trying to impose upon a system, our mind, that's the system, we're trying to impose upon a system like fire's nature has heat. The nature of a system called the mind is to be able to discern truth. It's not that it's holding truth and it's trying to impose that on things, but it has a capacity. If truth is presented, it is what the faculty, or is that factor that can say, oh yes, it's been presented. There's something about it. Okay, so there is this imposing on this system called the mind. Oh, general sense of I without saying exactly what it is. Oh yeah, good. And then having specific experiences, oh, that's the I. So the mind is going crazy. Wait a minute, you said the general was the thing, and now you tell me the specific is the thing? Make up your mind. Okay? The mind is asking, never mind. So this general sense of meanness is that sense that we have that seems to be carried over. The way to understand its reality is the way we understand a river. What part of the river is the river? It is this experience that is called a river. It's not this part of it. It doesn't become a river here. It's just this general phenomena of ever flowingness. That's what is called river. You can't take the river from its conceptual, not conceptual, condition, from its condition, and then bring it outside of that, and for it to still be river. Okay, you can't do that. So imagine you go to the river with a bucket, and you take a bucket of from the river, and you bring it home, and you tell whoever's there, oh, I got the river here. So imagine that, the river as the general, and then the bucket as a specific. They are related, but we can't call the bucket of water a river. Okay? All right. So just like there is no river in the bucket of water, from that perspective, It is said there is no self. You get that? It's not that there's no water there. It's just not there's no bucket. It's not that it's some sort of, it's extracted from experience. That's not what is being denied. What is being denied is to call that bucket the river, to call that moment self. That's the self. Okay. All right. So this general sense of self, those specific moments of self. So there are many specific moments, right? So and they're all valid experiences that the general that is within the umbrella of the general self. They're all valid specific moments, but not one of them can be said to be the river. Not one of them can be said to be the self. Okay, so when someone takes a specific and try to apply it to the general and say calling the general the specific, that's also that's an error. That's when they keep saying that is not the self. That is not self. Okay. Psychologically, beings who are not enlightened, we have the uncontrollable habit of taking specifics and applying it to generals. And that is why we get into political fights. That is why we get into all kinds of arguments, because some person is looking at the general and some person looking at the specific, and they're fighting at each other, calling the specific general and calling the general specific, and not really seeing what the other one is really pointing at. Okay. So because we are so habituated to making that mistake, to help us snap out of that habit, since the only time when we try to understand self, it is always specific, then, and since that is definitely not the river, then constant denial of self, because what we are bringing to the table is always a bucket of the, it's like saying, what about this bucket? What about this bucket? I got it from the north side. I got it from the middle. I got it from the end. I got it from the left side. Now, is this the river? Is this the river? It's like, that's what we keep doing. Whenever, let me try to say that, whenever we try to say the self is this specific thing, whether we say it is light, whether we say it is a love, whether we say it is wisdom, I'm not just saying sadness and not sadness. Whenever we try to specifically take a specific attribute and then say that's the whole thing, we are making a mistake, because that is what we have the habit of doing. That's why, to help us break out of this, since that is the only, since that is what you keep bringing here, a bucket from some portion of the river, and keep asking me, is this the river? I'm going to keep saying, no, that's not self. There's no self. There's no self, because the only understanding we have about self is the wrong understanding, and that wrong understanding has no existence in reality whatsoever. Okay, so from that perspective, there is no self. The misunderstanding we have about just this general experience that we have, because it is mistaken, it has no reality as being the whole thing. Okay. Now, this general self, this general sense, when we leave it alone, it exists. Yes, it is sad today. Yes, you're sad tomorrow, and then you're happy today. You're happy tomorrow. You're angry today. You're patient tomorrow. No, all these things are actual experiences. Okay? So, in that sense, if that's how you understand self, then you can be told, yes, the self exists. Okay? When you do not ascribe a specific thing to the self, but rather you can think of the self as potentials or forever potential, eternal potential of expressions, of manifold expressions, eternal potential for manifold expressions. If you understand self in that way, okay, you have an understanding of self. You can say self. Okay. And that self exists, where it is suffering today and then liberated tomorrow. That kind of general self can be said to be the one self. One in a sense that that quality of ever have of being a potential for different expressions at any moment, where you can experience yourself, that self, as being having one quality or one pervasive quality throughout your experiences. And at the same time, because it is pure potential for manifold expression, it can also be having multiple qualities being expressed, being experienced. And not one of these multiple is the real one, and not even that one pervasive is the real one. Okay? But they're all valid. There's a sense of a me moving through time. If I just leave it as it is, just a sense, I'm okay. But when I try to say this is what it is exactly, other than pure potential to be anything, I will be mistaken. And this pure potential to be anything, to be have any expression, can be multiple, where that's when we have that sense of a part of me wants to go there, but a part of me wants prefer to go there. Not one of those parts is more valid than the other. Okay. It happens that way because of the very nature of self being pure potential to have manifold kinds of expressions. That's what it is. And because of that, it can, through its own pure freedom, experience tremendous pain, tremendous suffering, all the different layers of suffering that could possibly there be to experience. It is, since it is pure potential for experience, it can have all those experiences, and they will all be valid experiences. And at the same time, that same pure potential can experience manifold blisses. It can experience a sense of complete freedom, and it can also experience complete bondage. Now, when you just look at it like that, so that people can be encouraged rather than discouraged, it's not like you are for eternity stuck to always having the potential to have all kinds of pain and suffering, that it will never end. That is a possibility if you wish it, but it's also because it is manifold, it can also have a future that is endless bliss, because it is not stuck to any of one of those things as being it. That's the only thing that it can be. Okay. That also, that underlying pure potential for any kind of manifold expression can be said to be the one. And those specific expressions that we have in this life, in many lives, those can be, and they are all valid, can be said to be the many. So the self can be experienced as one, it can be experienced as many, and both of them are valid. And can you have an experience, can there be an experience beyond oneness, beyond manyness? Yes, that is pure freedom itself. Okay. In trying to understand that oneness, or in trying to present that oneness to many students, different teachers have used different methods, but the method that they're using, methods or skill of encouragement. So from a certain perspective, they will tell you such thing as your true self, as opposed to your false self. But remember, a conceptual mind is hearing that. Immediately, it conceptualizes both. So when the teacher is saying a true self, it is referring to that pure potential for anything, for any expression, just that itself, not any specific expression, not any specific experience yet. Okay, just that in its own realm, so to speak. That is a true self. That is the true self. They're not saying that, they're not giving that true self some specific attribute, like, or that's the one that's happy, that's the one that doesn't have any trouble, that's the one that can go anywhere. That's as if that is they're pointing to some specific as being the general. Okay? Yes, it is possible for this general sense of self to have an experience of utter blissness, of utter freedom. But it is not that you are already, there is a you, a specific you that is already free, that is a specific you that is already knows everything. And somehow, illogically, this you that knows everything forgets that it knows everything and then is having some sort of not knowing everything experience in its knowing everything experience. Okay, so, but rather it is possible to have that, to have that experience as being a being, and that possibility exists within you right now, because the you, the true you, is just pure potential for experience. And what's the danger? Okay, what is the danger of thinking that this me already exists? We forget something very fundamental. What did you do when you were a baby and you were hungry? Did you remember your pure nature? Say, oh, I'm already fed. I'm already completely pure. So I don't need this milk. No, you said there's a condition of not having milk. Something must be done for this condition to change. And then you yelled as a means to change the condition. You took action to change the condition. Okay. And this is very fundamental that as babies, we know it. That's in the sense that where they say the babies have wisdom. Okay. So if you hear you're already that enlightened being that you aspiring after, then what is there for you to do anything? And what does that mean even for you to do anything? Do you really know how to do nothing? Do you really know how to do nothing? If you can absolutely do nothing, then you can reach enlightenment in a moment. But because we are so habituated to doing, we cannot just not do anything and then be enlightened. What does it mean when really speaking, I mean, really conventionally, really speaking, when someone misunderstands, I'm already enlightened. It means, I can continue to do what I'm doing. And somehow magically, poof, I will realize that I'm already enlightened. Continue to do what I'm doing already got you into the state where you're not enlightened. And somehow continue to do what you're doing is going to magically make you not enlightened. It's going to make you enlightened. Okay. Even when we say there's nothing for me to do, we don't really understand what we are actually saying. Because it's very difficult to do nothing. Have you tried it? Especially stop thinking, that part. Some people actually say they can do it, but but not doing anything, meaning not constantly engaging the fabric of reality, of pure potential, and molding it into different experiences. If we continue to mold reality, the fabric of reality that has created the experiences that we've been having, how is that going to magically one day change into a completely different experience? Okay, so that's the danger for some people when they hear you're already enlightened. But some people, when they hear you're already enlightened, they can understand it to mean, it is already within my own continuum. I don't have to go buy the capacity to be enlightened from someone. I don't have to borrow it from someone. It's already within me. The capacity to be enlightened is already within me. As a matter of fact, I am using that capacity to be enlightened. Listen to this. That capacity within me to be enlightened, I am using it to create samsara instead. But if I engage it differently, instead of creating samsara, I will create nirvana. It is that very same fabric that we are dealing with. If you want to reach nirvana, you don't change your nature, throw it away somewhere, and get a different nature that can take you to nirvana. You already have it. You're already using it. You're already creating with it. Okay. And it is also from this kind of perspective where such absurd things, if they're not understood properly, can lead us into just continuing this bondage. Such thing as there is no good things, there are no bad things. From a certain perspective, yes, that has a ring of truth to it. But from an everyday conventional where we are engaging in reality, there are things that are painful, that cause suffering, and there are things that cause us to be happy. And those things are not always the same things. Today, ice cream makes me happy, and tomorrow I become lactose intolerant and ice cream makes me unhappy. But the potential to be happy or to not be happy is always here. Okay. All right. I think I'll stop there and hope that gives you enough time to throw your questions from last time, from this time, or from any time.
I mean, thank you, Phuntsok. It was amazing, as always. You know, like whatever you've been saying kind of rings a bell because in my practice, sometimes, but there was one statement by J. Krishnamurti that always comes back, which is the observer is the observed. The other day, I was telling myself I'm frustrated, and then I caught myself frustrating. I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying. You actually saw it, and then you realize everything, whatever you just said, goes across the spectrum. And then at that point, the question then forward, going back, is it the self or is it just awareness? Or in other words, what is the distinction between the two? Like when you get to that, somewhere they're very closely knit, right? Because I do think, if I were to extend yours, my potential to be my self potential is to say there is nothing, because I think there is absolutely nothing and everything at the same time. However, I do think that that's also not a complete statement, because that's also meaningless. I don't know if I'm making myself clear. But the point of, like, is awareness separate from the self, or it is the self in the grand scheme of things, the umbrella?
Yeah.
I don't know if I was clear, but
yeah. Remember, when we are asking that question, even though at the moment of asking the question seems to be sincere and open, but the question is already preloaded. Asking, the thing is, there was an experience that you cannot deny that's happening. And to try to go beyond it, trying to go to something other than the experience itself, already we are beginning to make suppositions. Like, is it the self having the experience? And in that very question, we have to also ask, when I say, is it the self, what is that?
Yes.
What am I holding in my head that I'm calling, is it that thing that is having the experience? That is only because of habit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And also,
So,
it's always the question always comes to who is asking this question right now.
Yeah.
So yes, yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And precisely because that the beauty of that who is not some specific thing. Because that who is not some specific thing, then if we simply understand it as not being some specific thing, then we can, I would say, can allow ourselves to dwell in the magic of it. It is pure magical in the sense of it appears, but when you look at it, it disappears. but it appeared, and yet it disappeared. It's not like what would you call that? A mirage, right? It's not exactly like a mirage. Like if you're in the desert and you see a mirage that looks like water, that mirage will not function like water. It will not quench your thirst. But the self, when it appears as water, it functions as water until you impose on it that it must be water all the time, then it goes away. I hope that wasn't too confusing. Okay. When you're having an experience and you just dwell in it's magical to have this kind of an experience. You just stay in that wonder, then it's okay. But when you try to impose on that magic something non-magical, then it disappears. It goes away. Okay. And it disappearing, it goes away, doesn't necessarily mean that you're having a uplifting experience. It just means you're thrown back into your suffering. Okay. But when you stay with the sense of wonder, listen, take this wonder. The closest thing as to a conceptual experience that we have that is used to be the closest to experiencing the self, to talk about you, it's like space. Do you experience space? Do you see it? Are there things functioning within space? But can you grab space? But it's there, it's an experience. But when you try to make it something other than just what it is, that's when you lose. Okay. But if you remain in that understanding of the magic of space, the magic of self, not a self doing magic, but rather magic and self are one and the same. The self is magic itself. Not that a self is magical, but magic is the self, rather than the other way around. When you use it the other way around, it's trying to say the bucket of water is the river. Okay. So can you put the river in a bucket?
Yes.
Hmm?
Yes.
You can put water from the river in a bucket, but can you put the entire river in a bucket?
No.
Yeah. So that's the self. The self is the river. If you want to enjoy river, let river be river. Okay.
So
the self is not some specific thing ever, but it can appear as any specifics.
So is this more of a toggling between your subconscious and your conscious?
Those are different expressions. Conscious, subconscious. Subconscious are those are trying to explain it in a non-Western psychological thing, because that's where we got those terms, subconscious. There is really no equivalent that I know of subconscious, but rather potentials for experiences. They are there, they're just not manifest yet, but they are waiting for the right conditions for them to come to the surface and become conscious. But they are influencing the conscious experiences, you could say.
Okay. So then, just so I have some, because I'm trying to have some kind of clarity about it all. So as we're born into this world with the concept that we've been indoctrinated of self.
Yeah.
But basically, this doctrine is saying there is no self. We exist, but not in the definition the society has given as self.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. You could say it that way.
Okay. And then to me, the subconscious, or like the gentleman Harish, is that how you say your name?
Mm.
Was saying, about, well, then who is the who, as this looking at the self. To me, I kind of look at that as the subconscious, and the subconscious is the magic
Not
in
no.
in like a
Mhm.
spiritual way.
Mhm. Uh, sub subconscious and conscious are different expressions of this self that we have, a different expression of the self that we have right now, where basically it is what is it saying? It's saying there are aspects of myself that I'm not directly aware of, and the aspects of myself that I seem to be directly aware of. That's what that means,
Okay.
right?
So then it means then more or less it's that you're always aware of all of yourselves.
What was that?
So then so basically we're always aware of all of our different selves. So for example, sometimes you can observe life, you're in the process of this experience, but you're also outside of it, like you're looking through a window glass.
Yeah.
So those would be two different selves, the self that's experiencing it,
Mhm.
and then this other self observing it.
Yeah. And remember, we're just using language, and because we are using language, we have to use those words.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a sense of a me looking this from this perspective, and there's a sense of a me looking from a different perspective. And it's saying there's a self looking at this other self. Another way of saying that.
Okay. So it's always having a total awareness from different
Yeah.
perspectives.
Yeah. You can, you want to arrive at that a kind of awareness where without making the self into some specific thing,
Mm-hmm.
that put it like gather all the different parts and make it into one whole, make it into some specific thing, but rather being aware of the different expressions that we have in this
And
life.
that's happening simultaneously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Now it makes sense.
Thank you, Phuntsok.
Yes. Thank you.
Two questions. One, so like as you're talking, I'm sort of imagining each of us walking around like a river, so to speak. But I'm also, a question is coming up that's hard for me to formulate, but like this other concept of this self as something even bigger than an individual, like a collective self, or like I don't know if I can't even articulate the question, but it's like, is it still putting the river in a box if I think that river is just in Nizam, but actually that potential is even bigger than my own? Like, are we the same self, like in the same river, that I'm like thinking I have a different self than you, or like how does that work? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. This is still putting the river in the bucket.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. The self, the magic of the self is such that I am here, you are there, completely separate. And there can be an experience where there is no difference between you and me.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of them is the finite. Each one is just a bucket.
Okay.
What Ananda said to the king who was dying. Ananda was the king was asking. The king was afraid, and Ananda was trying to, I guess, alleviate his fear. And no, Ananda took him through basically through his life story. When you were born, when you were this, when you're that age, and eventually, the conclusion that Ananda helped the king to realize is that what you are can never be conscribed by anything, by any experience. We can have an experience where we are all one being right here tonight, but that's just an experience. Just like I'm having an experience, we are all separate beings. Being separate being is not the ultimate. Is not the ultimate, and being one being is not the ultimate. All those are just concepts, and we are beyond those.
So it is as if we are using our, this concession that we have because we have this language. So we are connecting and using this language, and therefore that's the way we define things. And then we have these senses that perceive reality. And then that's the way that we experience reality. Therefore, that's the way we define it. So I'm thinking, I mean, we are kind of a localization. Like I feel like I'm on an antenna. And then I'm perceiving this reality, this moment, that being in front of you, because that's the way I set it up. But when I close my eyes, my body's disappeared. So what I'm going is like, I feel like I have a cat in front of me, and this cat is possibly looking like in the dark. He can see in the dark, but I don't have his senses. So we all are experience our reality based on our these five aggregates. And what continues? What is that continuous of consciousness? Is there? Yeah, I've been thinking about that. I never asked that question. What continues? What is that river?
Yeah. Again, when we ask the question, we have to ask ourselves, what is really asking the question? I mean, not what in terms of who is really asking the question, but what question am I really asking? Okay. And then what am I what's called is that expression? Supposing? Okay.
Yeah, what are my assumptions?
My assumptions. Very good. Very good. Thank you. What assumptions am I already making in the very question itself? Okay. The experience. The thing is, we cannot deny the experience that is present. To impose on the experience anything other than the experience is making assumptions. So when I open my eyes, I feel myself in a physical body. To assume that to say, oh, I am the physical body, that's an assumption. This is just an experience. And when you close your eyes, oh, I don't feel my physical body anymore. It will be making an assumption to say, oh, I have no connection with physical body because I'm experiencing no physical body. So that is also making an assumption. So there's an experience of a physical body. That's what's happening. And we are not stuck to only having physical experiences, because we witness ourselves having non-physical experiences. To assume that it has to be one of the other that is more valid than the other is making an assumption beyond just the experience. The only assumption that we can make is that the sense of me-ness encompasses having an experience in a physical body and also having an experience outside of physical body. And what is that me-ness that continues? All we can say is, I'm having an experience in a physical body and having a sense of experience now outside of the physical body. Nothing else is presenting itself to us that says something is moving from here to there. There isn't that taking place, but rather there's this experience now and there's this experience that we have later. That's it. That's what's going on.
And there's that's when suffering and fear disappear, because it's just like you just become a witness, because you cannot be attached to the fear because it's already passed, and like everything flows, everything disappears, everything appears and disappears. So to be attached to one experience, you cannot hold that, right? Like if you really observe the moment, right?
Yeah. So the suffering is trying to hold on to experience, and it cannot be held on to, so we are frustrated. It's like we're like little babies trying to force something to be something that it is not, and we are upset that it is not being what we want it to be, when that's not what it is. Why can't I drive my car to school? It is not a real car. It doesn't function that way. If you try to make it function that way, you will hurt yourself. And then we go into a tantrum wanting the toy car to behave like the real car. And that's our suffering. But if we just realize, oh, it's a toy car, that's what it does. It cannot do that. Then we are free from expecting it to behave in a way that it's not supposed to behave. So when we crystallize specific attributes on the self, and the self is something free of any specific attribute, it can have experiences of attributes, but it is not any one of those attributes. But when we try to force it to have that attribute when it is not, we are just disappointing ourselves. We are like throwing a tantrum, demanding that the self be this way or that way.
So wonderful. I just think that about art, about poetry. That's why everything that like everything has to be written in poetry, because it's the only way, right?
Yeah.
Like impossible to express.
It's
and
the
it has to
closest
be
way to
beyond.
express it.
Exactly.
The closest conceptual way to express it.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. It's
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
So then just quickly, in Buddhism, obviously there's, the three, I forget what they're called now, impermanence, interdependence, and emptiness, right?
Oh, the three characteristics of phenomena?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Do we map those to the concept of self too, or is that different?
When we bring our assumptions of self to experiences, what we end up observing are those three, not that self that we're trying to impose onto things. Impermanence, suffering, and empty. That's what we encounter. And none of them is the self that we were assuming to encounter. Think of self as I like using this term. I hope it doesn't confuse you, but it helps me. I hope it helps you, guide you. Maybe you can come up with your own term. So when I think of the self is, when we're looking for self, what are we looking for? Something that is only that thing and nothing else but that thing, and nothing else is it. And I have to use all those terms for it. Something that is only that thing, nothing in the universe is it, and it is only that thing. When we're looking for self, that's what we're looking for. And we cannot, like what you, the example you, the thing you brought up about those three things that we encounter. So we're looking for something that is only itself. There's nothing else that is it, right? And what is that we encounter? We encounter a bunch of general things. Impermanence is not unique to it. Everything else, a lot of things have that quality. Okay, as an example. Suffering is not unique to it. It's a lot of things have that quality. So to say, I am kind, and that is me, it is nothing, no one, nothing in the world, nothing in the universe is me. And that means nothing in the universe is kind. I'm the only one in the universe that's kind. That's what it would mean if myself was kind. That's what we're looking for when we're looking for a self, without necessarily consciously verbalizing what we mean by that. Okay, that is the closest way of verbalizing it. Looking for, because we feel unique, right? I'm unique. You're not me, but what is exactly this uniqueness that I think that I am? All that I see are very common things. We breathe the same air. I have hands, you have hands. I have body, you have body. These are the things I'm experiencing. I have thoughts, you have thoughts. I have feelings, you have feelings. So so far in the actual experience, I have not encountered this uniqueness that I think is me. Something that is me, nothing but me, and nothing else is it. And you can take that for anything. My iPhone, only the iPhone that is only mine. No matter where I throw it in the universe, it's mine. That means the thief cannot steal it. They try to steal it and some weird thing would happen, because it's mine and only mine, nothing else but mine. Okay. But rather, there's this incredible beauty of interconnectedness. That's what we keep encountering. Interconnectedness. I am because you are. You are because I am. And that's the truth. That's what we keep encountering. Okay. Right. I did keep you, and I don't know if I gave you enough time to ask your questions. And it is really, if you have questions, you can really ask it in the email if you couldn't ask it now. Okay. And I'm glad that we end up with the whole point about talking about the self is to encounter magic. Okay. So no matter what is going on in your life, no matter how deep you are in hell, that's not you. You're magic. You're beyond all these things. All right, so let's do a quick meditation. I promise it will be quick. Put yourself in that posture where you're meditating. Remember the moment you were meditating, how it felt physically, in the breath, energetically, in the mind. Take a nice deep breath. And as you release, let yourself go, go into the calm, let yourself go into the pleasantness, go into the clarity, the radiance, the focus. And stay there while you let your breath return to its own normal rhythm. Stay cultivating, stay going deeper into the calm, stay going deeper into that pleasantness, stay there, keep going deeper, letting the breath alone. And this is magic. You feel yourself. And when you look, it's all these incredible, beautiful, uncountable things happening. And yet, I can say self. And this magic doesn't end just with this body and mind. We can extend it. Imagine someone looking at all of us in a circle and they say, look at them. They see us as one thing, a them. So take that themness as our identity. And in the same way, the left hand and the right hand thinks of helping each other as me helping me. Think of having the instinct of helping each other as just me helping me. And let that extend to your whole neighborhood, let it extend to the entire nation, let it extend to the entire globe. And if you can go even further than that, let it go as far as you're sincerely able to go. And whatever you look at, you're just looking at me. The sky, the clouds, the mountains, the rivers, the lakes, the ocean, the birds, all the different beings, they're just me. In that same way, your left hand needs something, the right hand goes and goes help, I'm helping me. The river needs help, you need help. You need help. Go help river you. Go help ocean you. Go help the sky you. Go help the mountain you. Go help your neighbor you. Just throw your right hand helping the left. And we don't need this vision for us to have this conviction anymore. Now the vision of all of us in this big circle is no longer needed. So it shrinks, and as it shrinks, everything maintain their unique sort of appearance, but the sense of me-ness remains. They're all me. And because of that truth, when you sincerely help yourself, you are automatically helping other. When you sincerely help other, you are automatically helping self. Get ready to come out of the meditation. Take a nice deep breath. And as you release the breath, let yourself reconnect with your immediate surroundings, letting go, reconnect with a sense of touch, reconnect to your sense of hearing, reconnect to the sense of sight. Okay. I knew I was going to talk a lot, but I didn't know I was going to talk this much. All right, thank you. I hope if I confuse you in a way that will make you seek clarity, not become discouraged, but rather be encouraged to seek more clarity. Okay. And if there is any measure of clarity that you were able to gain, thank your own mind for being able to do that, to have that. All right. Thank you.